Hey there folks, welcome to this video, and here I'm going to be talking about the news that Renault have launched a formal protest against Racing Point. Now, the reason being is, well, as has been quite strongly talked about around the paddock, Racing Point's RP20 is more or less a carbon copy of Mercedes' W10 that they used last season. And that's been something that's been well known. It's been something that Racing Point haven't shied away from, despite Pink Mercedes and Racing Point comments. But the reason why Renault are lodging a protest is over the brakes, which I find ironic for two reasons. First being Renault being caught having illegal brakes last season. Well, I guess it was technically driver aids. And Racing Point being the team that launched a protest against them last season, which ended up, on that occasion, getting Renault disqualified from the Japanese Grand Prix. Now, I don't know what's going to really happen, but here's what the allegations are for. It's to do with the listed parts rule. So, in terms of these listed parts, and well, there is the brake ducts, the team must design it in-house or have a company design it in-house. And when I say in-house, in that scenario, I mean that they shouldn't supply anything to any other teams. So, if, say, Racing Point got an external supplier to make it, they can't be a supplier that also works for Mercedes. It can't work for the Brackley-based team as well. And the allegations are that it was either Mercedes' own or a supplier for Mercedes that Racing Point went to. Now, I don't know about this. I would personally be of the opinion that it's just a carbon copy of the design, as much the Racing Point has been. Because, well, for example, if it was the exact same thing, if we were talking the exact same parts, the tyre heating would have been much better. They wouldn't have struggled so much in quali because the Mercedes hasn't struggled in the wet. Well, the W10 did struggle in the wet. Or at least, not to the same point that the RP20 did. I don't really know what to think about a kind of outcome, but my personal opinion is that, well, this is something that AlphaTauri, formerly Toro Rosso, did for years. It's something that Haas did. It's a working formula. I think that it's funny that Racing Point were the biggest opponents of Haas doing this, and since then, Racing Point have changed their philosophy because this season it is what they are doing. But there are two ways that you can interpret the rules. There's the literal interpretation of the rules, and there's the spirit of the rules, which comes very important in F1 at the moment, because the spirit of the rules is something that leads to rulings like we had against Ferrari last season. And to some degree, it was the spirit of the rules that led to the DAS protests. But I don't know. Do I think that it's the best thing to say, yeah, you can just make a carbon copy of the best car out there? Not necessarily. But if F1 really wants to sell itself to new people, and they don't want to be going, okay, we can have more and more spec parts, you've got to expect teams to want to copy the winning designs. I mean, we saw that last season with the front wings on the Alpha and the Ferrari, and at some point on the Haas. They decided to go with very similar aero philosophies at different points. I mean, like I said as well, junior teams, AlphaTauri has been renowned for essentially just getting the year-old Red Bull. But yeah, what could happen if the protest is found to be valid. Well, it has been found to be valid, but also that it rules in favour of Renault. I don't really know, because the allegations involve two parties here. It involves Racing Point, but now, because of the way that it's been impounded and because of the similarities to Mercedes, it also involves Mercedes. Now, at the very least, if found guilty, Racing Point will get a fine. They'll probably also, most likely, get disqualified from the Styrian Grand Prix, and maybe even the Austrian Grand Prix as well. I reckon that both of those would become disqualifications. Mercedes, I don't know, if found guilty and found to have supplied Racing Point with these brake ducts, I reckon they'll get a fine. And probably a pretty hefty one as well, because, well, it's Mercedes. Maybe a points deduction as well. I don't see either of them getting thrown out of any championships over it. Maybe the worst they could do is wipe the tallies for the constructors and tell them to start again. But then that'd be all convoluted and kind of against the spirit of F1. Like I've made remarks before, that F1 is Formula 1, not one formula. But at the same time, Racing Point did something a little bit different. Again, like I've said, it's what Haas did, and that annoys me a little bit because Racing Point were among the biggest protesters against Haas doing what Haas did. But I mean, if they've changed their tune, they've changed their tune. And if we really want more manufacturers in the sport, we need to be more open to the prospects of things like customer cars. I don't know, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, but those are mine. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you stick around. When we get more news, I'll report of it as and when. Hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.